It's so good to be with you here today. I'm so glad you're here at our city church. My name is Chris. I'm the lead pastor at our city church. And if you're new here, we welcome you. If you're watching online or listening to this on our podcast, thank you so much for being a part of our community today. If you are an NFL fan, we got such a great day today. Excited for us all. Go Niners. Hope they do it. The Eagles have a better team. So, a little David versus Goliath. We'll see what happens. Maybe not David. Maybe like Goliath's little brother versus Goliath. Maybe that. Hey, if you have a Bible, I want to invite you to open it to Matthew chapter 6. We're in this series called Change Your Life. We've been talking about different areas of your life that we believe that we all would agree that we want to change. And we want to look through the lens of Scripture today on a key area that Jesus talked about that I think will really help all of us with the rest of this year. Before I do that, I wanted to give you a quick building update. As I promised last week in a video for y'all, I want you to see, these are just some of the renderings I'm going to have come up in a minute. So we're working with an architect that we've known for years. We're friends with them. I think I've told you they are the reason that we got into the building space we did during COVID that really allowed us to just have a space to film in and to work in. They've been really wonderful throughout the process. So we've got these are just like the basic renderings. There's three we want to show you. We're going to show you a kids space. We're going to show you a lobby space first, and then we're going to show you kids and auditorium space, okay? So those of you that are part of it, here we go. This is going to be the lobby space where we kind of walk in. Yeah, it looks good, doesn't it? Doesn't it look good? They did good. This is the lobby, so this will be one of the ways in which we go in. The youth will meet kind of in the back. Those windows should be opened up. There'll be a place for us to kind of connect and chill, kind of like we do out in the patio out there, but we're going to be able to do it hopefully inside with a larger area. The next picture up is where our kids' check-in is going to be, and so... yeah, we're excited about that. You can see where this little kid is running away on the left. Not sure what's up with that, but Pastor Kellen will work on that. But right next to him is, that is a parent viewing or mother's viewing room where we'll have a good TV and sound system in there for all moms who are either nursing and or just need the baby to rest and be taken care of while you still get to be at church with your family. So we're excited about being able to have a space for that. We do it here, but we wanted to make sure that was in there. We're not going to go room by room, but this is the auditorium also that we're working with right now, and so that's what it'll look like. I just want to say that, I don't ever preach with my hand in my left pocket like that. So these are not real life renderings. But yeah, we're really excited. Again, I want to say thank you to all of you who have been faithfully giving to Our City, Our Turn, which is our giving campaign for our building. It's the reason we are doing what we're doing, and there's been some wonderful people that have really stepped in and helped us kind of just along this journey and process. You may or may not know this, but I'm a pastor. I don't work in construction, so, it's fun. We're learning. We're working with these architects, learning tons about that, about construction people. They're different people, and we're grateful for them. Without them, we don't get buildings. We don't have space, and quite frankly, we don't do ministry without people who help us have the spaces we have. And so we're indebted to them. We're grateful for them, and we hope to be able to be moving on this soon. Monday, our team is going room by room and finalizing the final plans for what we do and don't want in each room, from TVs, lights, all that stuff. And once that gets done, apparently we'll be able to get real life data back to them, and then they can say, okay, here's where stuff needs to be run, electrical and all that jazz. And then we're taking those plans to the city, and then we wait for the city, and I've been told that is going to be about 10 days to get those plans, and we can start working on getting it ready for us. So the timeline is always in my mind shorter than what it will probably end up being. So just be prepared to be flexible. Stay the amazing church you've been for so many years now. But our joy is and our hope is that by Easter we're sitting in there. March would be great, but that may not happen. So, just stay flexible. When I was a little kid, we had this teacher. I've never done that since then, but it stuck with me apparently. Whenever it was like, hey everyone, we need you to stay flexible. And then she would just go, be flexible. And that was it. I don't want any of us to ever do that again. That should be the one and last time. Great. What have I started? No, don't do it. I don't want it. It was a Freudian slip. It should have never came out. Let's get to the message. All right. Hey, listen, today's message, if you are under the age of 30, and you're sitting in this room or listening right now because someone who loves you, cares about you, sent you this, or because you're sitting here today, I really want you to lean in today, okay? I have prepared these thoughts specifically for you, not to say that people over the age of 30 won't benefit from it, because I believe they will, but I am going to tell you something. If you are in either middle school and you're sitting in here today, or you're in high school, or you're in college, or you're in your first job out of college, or maybe you're in your late 20s and figuring out what you're going to do with your life, you've fallen in love, you're maybe dating seriously, or you're thinking about your future, I am going to talk to you so plainly and clearly about a very important subject in your life, in all of our lives, that I really wish somebody would have said to me the way I'm going to say it to you today. Okay, your guys' generation is so different about so many different things. There's lots of things happening in and around your life, but I wish someone would have talked to me about this stuff, because we all have very similar passions and goals and things that we all want out of life. But I promise you, if you listen today, your future spouse is going to be grateful that you were here and you listened. Your future kids, your future boss, maybe your future employees, they will thank you for learning today's message. And I also want to remind you, if you're not in that bracket, I just kind of want to remind you why we do what we do here at our city church, and why the faith in Jesus has us doing these words. We're going to learn from him today again. I want to talk to you today about what it means to be able to prioritize the proper things. Now, I'll tell you why in a moment, but I want to tell you something right off the bat that I want you to write down. If you're under 30, you have a phone, you should probably bust that thing out and stop staring at me right now and start ready to take notes, okay? So let me just help pastor you for a moment, okay? If you're under 30 and you're not taking notes, you're literally telling me, I hate you. Okay, maybe not. But listen, I'm gonna help you, but you gotta write this stuff down. You're not that smart. You're not gonna remember it. I'm not either, okay? So don't just stare at me like it's all trolley la la. Let's help each other, okay? You didn't come here today just to sit in here and check a box so you could make God happy so he doesn't I don't know what you think, but that's not what today's about. Today's about me trying to help you learn something from God's word that will change your life. And that's what's gonna happen, but it won't happen if you just stare at me and blink the whole time, okay? So I wanna help, all right? Smile at me, okay, because I love you. I'm doing this because I love you, okay? I'm going to remind you of a couple things that have happened recently in our world that makes things a little up in the air for really important areas. But before I do that, I want to tell you something that I think is true, and this is what it is. This phrase, priority determines capacity. Priority determines capacity. Write that down in your notes. Priority determines capacity. Pastor Chris, make it make sense. Got it. I understand. We're under 30. That's not an easy phrase. Let me do it. I'm not being mean. I didn't understand it when I was under 30. This is what I mean. What you do first will always determine and equal what you're capable of doing. Not what you hope, not what your dreams are, not what your desires are, not what you like on Instagram, not what makes you cry when you watch Upworthy. No, what you do first determines what you will be capable of doing. Priority determines capacity. I don't care what you dreamed to do this year in 2023. I don't care what your New Year's resolutions were. I don't care what book and podcast and ideas and whatever you think, oh, this is what I want my life to be, and I've always wanted to be this person, I'm going to change this year. It doesn't matter what any of that stuff is if you do not first determine the priority of the most important things. What you do first determines what you'll be capable of doing. And we have similar priorities, okay? Those of us that are people of faith would say hey, I have the priority of God, right? A lot of you would say God's a priority, okay? You would also say my family is a priority, okay? You would also say your health is a priority, right? You would say, school, my schooling, it's a priority. It's my education. It's my future. I'm being developed right now. You would say my finances is a priority, right? My economy, my personal economy. You would say making a difference, influencing others is a priority, right? We would agree on these things. But many of us, though we have those things, here's what's also true. We also have these other things that may not be high priorities, but we make them end up being more important in our lives because we do them first. So when you do things that are less important first, you've made the things important not important anymore because you no longer have capacity to do them because you've prioritized things that don't matter to the Bible, don't matter to me. They don't matter to you. You would tell me yeah, those things are not as important as the stuff you just listed. My faith is a priority to me, Pastor Chris. You would agree, we would agree. We could literally go sit down for tea, coffee, and whatever, and like hang out and like go to In-N-Out or whatever, and you and I would have this conversation, and you would say, yeah, those God, my family, my health, my school, my friends, my finances, influencing others, doing something with my life that matters, like you would want that. But often what happens is our world spends many billions of dollars a year getting you to care about their priorities. They don't want you to have priorities. They want you to spend your money on their priorities. And they are hunting you. You are the little antelope in the National Geographic film. You're that, okay? You're the thing. They're looking for the wounded one walking that just needs their friends to like them so much. Okay, that's you. You're the one that's like, yeah, mom and dad, yeah, right? You're the one. You're limping along. And the lion is out there going, you're the one I could pick off. I will own your life for at least 20 years before you even spin your head back around and go, what did I just do? Who did I become? How is this my life? This is not what I wanted. And yet it's what you're doing because it's what you do first, right? Social media, Netflix, bored eating, bored spending, buying things you can't afford, putting off the things that matter to you, holding on to grudges, staying angry at your mom, staying angry at your dad. Now listen, I'm not talking about abuse. If there's like awful abuse, that is not a part of this discussion. It's a totally different message, a totally different time. I have a heart for that. I understand that. That is traumatic. It's awful. That ought to be worked out, okay? You still should come to forgive because forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself, okay? They don't deserve forgiveness, but that's the power of forgiveness. Nobody deserves it, okay? You don't deserve Jesus' forgiveness, and they're never going to deserve yours. That doesn't mean you have to give it to them cheap. It doesn't mean you have to just be like, well, forgive them, and then they keep doing it. No, look, that's a whole different deal. You need counselors and help and all that, okay? I want to talk to you today just about the normal flow of people doing stuff that hurt your feelings, and you just have learned and been trained in your family system to stay angry, bitter, and frustrated, and you don't ever learn to go, I need to forgive this person. I need to let this person have another chance. We're going to have a conversation about the behavior, but I need to do this, right? So we have these things that we don't do, won't do, right? And too many times we try then to do the important things, but we don't have enough space. We just literally have stuff. We don't have enough money. We spent our money on stuff that didn't matter. We don't have enough time to do the things that matter to us. And the key to getting anything done is not just adding it. Oh my gosh, this is important. Let me add it in now. No. You'll never be able to. There's not enough space, not enough time, not enough money. You have to do prioritization. You have to take the things that you, me, the things that we, and if we're people of faith, it's the things that Scripture teaches, and we're going to get into what Jesus said should be most important. Whatever that says, and whatever we've come to put our faith in, people of faith, and if you're not a person of faith and you're just here visiting, I'm still wanting to help you. I'll tell you this, what do you think is most important? Whatever that is, you've got to put first. So, what should go first? It begs the question, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that's happened that is underneath that we're running, doing all the time. And Jesus makes it super clear. And this is what I love about Jesus. Thousands of years ago, he lived. Historians write about him. But here's what the Bible says. He said, and this is what's cool, is he knew we were going to be facing this world. He knew, listen, just let me just speak to the under 30-year-old and just be your coach, your life coach, your pastor for a second. It is my firm belief that most 40-year-olds plus could not last a day in your teenage world. They don't know what it's like to be hunted like you are on a daily basis by a multi-billion-dollar industry, okay? Their whole thing was like the camel guy smoking a cigarette on the... Okay, that was nothing. They got to leave their phone at home. No one notified them every day constantly of something they should care about, okay? They got to be insecure about the one pretty girl in their school. One, maybe three, maybe four unbelievable knockout pretty girls in their high school. And they got to hate those girls because they didn't like them because they were pretty. You got to deal with jealousy and frustration, not from the four pretty girls, but every pretty girl on the planet at all times, every day. They couldn't stand a day in that. Your world is not easy. We made it for you, and we haven't taught you very well how to even wade through the waters of it. It's difficult. okay? You didn't just get made fun of like back in the day. It was like, yeah, okay, the punk kids, they make fun of the kids and all the rest, right? No, you don't just have the punks at school making fun of you. You got everyone who could get to anything you've posted making fun of you. You got bullies everywhere. Your world is hard. And we make fun of y'all, and y'all sometimes should be made fun of, okay? Everybody should be able to take a joke and laugh at themselves, okay? Y'all ain't always like finishers, okay? But I respect any of you that are here today. Anytime I see any of you put your hands up in the air and you love God, I watch you volunteer. Some of you right now are in this booth. The reason some of you are watching this online is because there's a young teenage girl in the back. She's pressing buttons to change the camera angles for you. There's another young person back there making sure that the slides come up, okay? Anytime I see young people and they're serving their church, serving their God, in the world they got to deal with, there's a part of me inside that is still a youth pastor, and I just stand at attention and go, hey, in the army of God, man, you a general. You doing it. And I got mad respect for it. And because I love you so much, because I'm the pastor of a next generation church, we will always be reaching the next generation, always. We will spend more of our budget on young people, college students, high school students, middle school students, elementary school students, toddlers, pre-K, and pregnant moms. All of them are gonna get more money than the rest of y'all that ain't in that group. Just so you are so clear, okay? I just want you to know, we ain't spending as much money on the rest of y'all. Because that's what God told us to do. And it's our plan, it's our mission, it's our mandate, it's our calling, it's who we must be. It's why God made this church the way it is. Jesus didn't want us to be unclear, so if you are under the age of 30, I want you to be very clear on what Jesus said you should build your life upon. Because he made it super clear. Now, everybody real quick say there and then. If you're new around here, there and then is our way of saying, hey, I want you to know what was going on there and then, because it's like thousands of years ago that Jesus lived and taught this stuff. So the world's different, the language is different, there's a lot different. So it's kind of hard to like grasp all of it. So I want you to understand what was happening there and then, because if you can understand the world of the Bible, then the words of the Bible will emerge and give you life and understanding. But if you don't understand the world of the Bible, then I can just read you a bunch of stuff. You just be like, I don't know, right? You ever been to like, I don't know, another Christian service or Catholic mass or something, they're just up there like railing against something, you're just like, I don't really understand this, right? And you check in and check out and, you know, like do your thing and whatever, right? Like, and we're just like, dude, I'm not really sure what this means, but I guess I'm supposed to do it so I don't burn in hell. We do that a little differently here. I want you to know what was happening in the story of the Bible. So there and then, here's what's happening. There's this very famous thing Jesus does, and it's called the Sermon on the Mount. You can guess it's on a mount. He's on a mountain. He's got lots of people that are like kind of interested, right? He's new at this time. This is newer. Jesus had 3 years of public ministry. This is in year 1. So he hasn't done a lot of the exploits that you, if you're a believer or Bible reader, you grew up in and around church, you know some of the stuff he does. No one knows it yet. He's laying out his preamble to his constitution. He's letting everyone know, this is what you've heard said, but this is what I'm telling you, okay? You've read it this way, but I'm interpreting it this way. I want you to know, yeah, they've said it to you like this, but I'm saying, you've heard hate your enemies. I'm saying pray for your enemies. And people are like, what? Like, he's changing the social rules of how we treat other people. So he's got this huge crowd, lots of excitement. People are like, dude, this is crazy. He's dropping bars on all the hot topics of his day. If you don't know what dropping bars are, just remember I am speaking to under 30 right now. That's all I want to tell you. So ask them, they'll tell you. Salt, light, the Mosaic law, anger, lust, divorce. Right? These things would not be fun for us to do. But back then, especially in that culture, these were like really touchy topics, okay? Retaliation, loving your enemies, learning how to care for the needy, have a heart for the needy. The Lord's Prayer, no big deal. I don't know what you've published, but pretty big deal there. He's talking about fasting. Okay, now the master teacher, man, he's ready to bring it home. Okay, he's rounding third, he's inside the 10. If you don't like sports, I don't know, the clock of your really famous thing you're cooking is about to bing, and it's ready. Okay, here you go. And Jesus now rounds, and he's been teaching on all these things, hot topics. Hot topics. And just so we can go ahead and get a little tension in the room on the hot topics, let me just go ahead and do this one. We'll go Black Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, my life, my body, my choice when it comes to a baby and abortion, my life, my body, my choice when it comes to a vaccination and a mask, and these cops killed this boy and he's black, but the cops were black, and so now we're not sure how to talk about it. Did I do it? Y'all feeling it now? Okay, good. That's what he's doing. He's going, hey, we're gonna talk about this stuff. He's been doing it all day. Now he wants to make sure that his new followers understand what it's all about. All about. And he says this, verse 19, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. So he says, do not, okay, don't store up, which means do not hoard, don't hold on to, don't try to control who gets what. Don't do that, okay? Instead, I want you to do this. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin can't destroy, do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. Which begs the question, well, what are the treasures of heaven? What does treasures in heaven mean? Well, what did heaven treasure? Well, we can start with one of the most famous scriptures in all of the Bible. One of his other followers, not Matthew, but John later will write this verse that says, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son, that whoever believes in him will not perish for eternity, but have everlasting life. Okay, that's what Jesus' mission, mandate, calling, function was when he came to the earth. Now watch this. We just got told what was the treasure of heaven. It was God's one and only son. And what did the God of the universe do with his treasure? He gave his treasure. And who did he give it to? People who appreciated it, understood it, accepted it, who understood its value and could give back equally? No. In fact, he gave his son to a group of people who would even reject his message and be mad at him, not always serve him, and still yet God loved people who did not love him back yet. He gave for the future people who he wanted in heaven with him. Now, this is what we then can say, this is what heaven treasured. The treasure of heaven was Jesus himself. And heaven emptied itself of its treasure. It gave up its treasure, put it to a place in earth that was already bankrupt morally and spiritually in order to provide the morally and spiritually bankrupt people a chance to know God. That's the treasure of heaven. That's what the treasure of heaven did himself. And just to be clear, Luke said it too. One of the other followers, he wrote it this way. He said, Jesus said this, for the Son of Man, he's talking about himself, for the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. So we just got a real good snapshot, okay? Here we go, ready? The treasure of heaven is Jesus, God's son. God sends the treasure of heaven to a morally and spiritually bankrupt people who have no value system of it. Why? Because they appreciate it? No, because they needed it. So he gave his only son, so who could ever put their trust in him? And then when Jesus came to this morally, spiritually bankrupt earth, you know what he did? He didn't go about the business of throwing a bunch of parties for himself because he's so important and so wealthy and rich, and he's the treasure of heaven. You know what he did? He spent his whole life, literally his life, seeking and saving you. Before you knew him, you were lost. Couldn't find purpose, meaning, forgiveness. Couldn't get there on your own. Couldn't heal your relationships. Couldn't manage your life. Couldn't manage your stress. Couldn't manage your pain. Couldn't do it. But when Jesus found you as a lost little lamb in the wilderness, he saved you. And he became the good shepherd to your life. And then he protected you. And then he taught you. And he built you. And he loved you. That's what the Son of Man came to do. Now that we have a picture of what heaven treasures, let's go back to what Jesus is teaching at the end of his Sermon on the Mount. He says this, so, Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. That's what it is. Now he says this, for where your treasure is, your heart will be also. You know what that tells you? It tells you this. The treasure of heaven was Jesus, and God sent his son to earth. Where was the treasure of heaven sent? To earth. Why? Because where your treasure is where your heart is. And the heart of God was for the people of the earth, you, me. He had a heart for you. So he sent his treasure to you to make sure that you could come to find him, to know him, and to know all that he brings to your life. So he says, I want a heart fixed on people, not anything else. True riches. The people that God gave his life for. The people Jesus came for. Me and you. People who don't know him yet. He came. He says that's true riches. Not things that you could accumulate. Not more stuff to buy because you're bored or you don't know what else to do with the extra like money or the time. Not your vacation home or your investment portfolio or your car or the gas it takes to run that car or how good you get at golf or your recreational skills or whatever you do. Not your Airbnb. Not the multiple places. No, he says, no, fine. All good, you're allowed to have them. This is not a matter of whether or not God is okay with you having things. It's he don't want your things to have you. He don't want them to own you, and he don't want them going first. He don't mind if you got nice stuff. He minds when it becomes a little more important. It becomes something you're storing it up and you're focused on. He says, whoa, don't do that, okay? Don't do that. That's not my kingdom. That's this world's kingdom. That's not my kingdom, okay? Caesar, the one you all know, running around doing, that's his way. He does that. I don't want that. That's not how I'm going to build this thing. It won't work. That's not how I came. It's not why I came. It's not why my father sent his treasure because he had a heart for this place. It's not it. This is different. It will go against the grain. It will not be natural. It will not be normal. There is nothing wrong with you if you are not like this. None of us are like this. He said, that's what I want you to do, though. I want you to store it up. And then he kind of like changes this because Jesus asks us a better question because we want to ask these questions of status or a symbol of wealth, right? These are the things that we go, oh, look how nice my like Kate Spade bag is, right? Got a Coach bag, look at me, hey. And she's like, that's fine. Have the bag. After you store up treasures in heaven first. You can have some treasures on earth, but you don't do them first. You don't make sure that's what you get first. That's storing up your treasures, building your kingdom. And he says, do it second, do it third, do it after. And then he asks a different question because we see it like this. What will I have to show for it? Right? Isn't that a question you ask? What do I have to, right? A bad breakup? Gosh, what do I have to show for that relationship? Right? A bad job, you get fired, lose your job, or, you get, they decommission you or whatever. Like, what do I have to show for it, right? Even with our life, that's a question some of us, we're at a stage of life, you're asking that now. You're like, man, what do I have to show for my parenting? What do I have to show for my job? What do I have to show for my life? And we are asking a question that our world teaches us to ask, but Jesus asks a better and different question because he doesn't say, what will I have to show for it? He asks us the question, who will you have to show for it? Who do you have to show for your life? Who will you have to show that did not know the Jesus you came to know? And because of you, because of the way that you stored up people, you cared about them, you loved them, you supported the mission you gave to them, you spent time on them, you prayed for them, you invited them. You didn't just attend church. You saw this as a mechanism to help someone else discover the treasure himself. You didn't hog the treasure to yourself because you're insecure about what your friends might think at school because you invite them to church. You grew boldness and courage. And you said, no. What you will experience when you get forgiven by Jesus is greater than what the uncomfortability is for me to invite you. And I care more about you and you being the treasure and you and your treasure to God than I do about how funky it might be for me to have to feel the awkwardness if you say no. They're going to say no. If you are waiting for everyone you ask to come to church to say yes, you'll never invite anyone. I get told no more than I get told yes. But there's those of you in this room right now that are here because I was willing to get told no. I know you. I can look at you in the face right now and say, you're in this room right now. And there's people, you're in this room not because I did it, because there's other people in this room who did that. And they said, you know what? You might be another one of the no's, but you might be one of the yeses. And I know what Jesus has done for me, and I want him to do it for you. And you care more about that. And that is the posture of a heart that is storing up treasures in heaven. Your heart follows your treasure, but your treasure does not always follow your heart. People say, if I really love it, I'll give to it. But that's a lie, because if you give to it, you're going to love it. You know how some of you know that? Because you adopted a child that you didn't know and you couldn't have loved yet. You loved the idea. But as you gave and you fostered that child and you brought that child into your home and you began to give and give and give, something happened in your heart and you learned to love. That's what happens. That's how God made us. Now, Jesus is saying all this really awesome stuff about your treasure and where your heart is and storing up the right treasures and who the treasure is and all the rest. And then he goes all wise sage here and kind of flips the script, right? Like he goes like Yoda out of nowhere. If you're sitting here right now and you're a little miffed that I am comparing Yoda to your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and you're thinking in your mind right now, how dare you? I want you to know I'm thinking, how dare you? Because if that offends you, you will not last long here. Because it's way worse than that, trust me. Jesus says this, the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. These verses have always confused me, especially when they come right after this discussion about material possession and greed and treasures and focus and prioritization of your life and what your life should matter for, right? I'm like, why do you all of a sudden sound like you're doing a devotional for middle school boys about what they should and shouldn't look at? Your eyes are good, your eyes are bad. Hey, boy, don't look. God made us this way, but try to be holy, right? If you haven't had that talk, you have young boys, just remember this and come talk to Pastor Jimmy. We'll help you with that talk. I remember when they had to come talk to me, and now it's you, sucker. It's actually a really healthy and beautiful talk. It's good. It's a part of helping boys become men. That sounded a little like I was going to go, how do I say goodbye? That made me laugh. Hold on. So Jesus then out of nowhere says this whole thing about a good and a bad eye. And it seems like he just switches the script, which he's God. He can do it if he wants to, but that's actually not what he's doing. He is talking about money and materialism and greed and what your eyes look at, but this is what he's saying. In Hebrew, having a good eye is the phrase ayin tovah. Ayin tovah is the Hebrew phrase. And Jesus is using this terminology for a reason. He's using figure of speech. Pastor Chris, what's a figure of speech? Well, it would be like, I've said this before, and some of you have heard this example, but if you're new here, it would be like if I said, hey, let's kill two birds with one stone. Do you think 100 years from now, they're going to be sitting together going how did they do that? I have tried for 3 weeks. I've thrown one rock at two birds, never got one, much less two. Right? That's how it is sometimes try to interpret scripture because you're like, I don't get this. Well, here's what he's doing. He's saying, hey, ayin tovah, this means in Hebrew, having a good eye, but what the meaning is being generous. When you have a good eye, your whole body will be full of light. Why? Because that's the nature of God, to be a generous God who gave the treasure of heaven for people who didn't know him, that he wanted to seek and save. And he said, that's what I'm here to do, and that's what it's all about. And he had a good eye, and he had a good eye to see you. Why is it important to have a good eye? Because if you got bad eyes, baby, you know how hard it is to live your life when you ain't got your glasses. I take these glasses off right now. Y'all just look like fuzzy dots. I can't tell who's here. Can't see your face. You can. Some of you got worse eyes than me. You can't drive. You can't live. When you have bad vision, you can't live your life correctly. You will think some things are there that aren't. You will think some things aren't there that are. And you'll mess up the priorities of your life when you have a bad eye. Now, what's a bad eye? When Jesus said, if you have a bad eye, he's using the Hebrew phrase, ayin ra'ah. Ayin ra'ah means being stingy. Jesus says, if you're stingy, you got bad sight and you can't see and you can't live and you won't be able to do this life right. You will become like this world. You will spend like them, think like them, be like them, do your life like them. You will prioritize like them. And then the things that matter to you, you will never get to because you have become stingy with yourself. You have bad eyes. You prioritize the wrong things. And this is what's interesting because some people, you might even be like 20 or 18 or you're like, Pastor Chris, my paycheck's $200. How am I supposed to be generous? No. Listen, generosity is not an income. Generosity is a heart condition. It's not how much you make, it's how generous your heart has become. And I'm going to promise you this. If you don't learn to be faithful and generous with $200 and find a way to give what God has asked us to give, and scripturally he asks us to give 10% of what we make back to the cause of God. And that's what we do at church. It's why we tithe. It's why we do all that. But that's the part of it where he is saying, hey, I want you to do that. And if you're thinking, dude, $20, I promise you this. If you can't find a way to be generous with $20, do you know how hard it's going to be when you're making $2,000 paychecks to cut a check for $200? You're going to be like, dang, Pastor, that's a lot of money. And guess what? You'll be fuzzy with your value. You'll spend money. You'll spend $200. You'll spend $20. But you won't spend it on making sure somebody comes to know Jesus. You'll just spend it on some foolishness. And if we really went through your bank statement and said, tell me what you value, because what you spend your money on is what you value, and we watched you spend your money, you'd have a hard time convincing yourself. You'd be like, dang, yeah, I got it. I don't know. I guess I'm just going with the flow of the water of my culture, and it's just kind of carrying me like downstream. And that's why this message is so important. It's why Jesus started his ministry saying, do not store up treasures on earth. It's the way the world works. It's the way this thing goes. It's how everyone will be. And they will celebrate and do it with you, and your friends will do it. You will have to prioritize doing it first, because what you do first determines what you can do. It's how Jesus set it up. And then he says this, he says, and if then the light that is within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? You know what he connects? He creates a great darkness in your soul with being stingy. Some of you think like, well, if I had more money, I'd be more generous. No, actually, if you weren't stingy, you'd be generous. You're a stingy person, and no one's ever told you that. But scripture can tell you that because it tells me that. I love spending money on me. Woo! I like me. I work hard. I kind of feel like I deserve some me. That's why I have to prioritize not me, because I know what I'm capable of. I'll make sure that I rest and relax. I will. But if we don't make sure, and Jesus knew this about the human heart, he knew that there would be a potential for great darkness. Why? Because listen to me, if you are a follower of Jesus and you are stingy, it doesn't make sense. That's what he's saying. Listen, if you're following me and you're a follower of Jesus, but you have bad eyes, ayin ra'ah, you're stingy. You're stingy and you are a follower of Jesus. How can you be stingy and receive my generosity? How? That don't fit. That don't work. 2 + 2 can't be 10. And following Jesus can't equal having a bad eye and saying it's about me. And you want to know why this matters? I'm going to tell you why it matters right now. Because once upon a time, somebody thought of you. Someone made sure this great gospel of Jesus' wonderful death and salvation and resurrection for you got to us. And it wasn't because they had our money in 2023. It wasn't because, no, thousands of years ago, there was men and women, grandmas, grandpas that made sure that a church they didn't know about, couldn't fathom, couldn't understand, and they gave, and they sacrificed, and they served, and they volunteered, and they loved, and they changed babies' diapers, and they did all they had to do to say, one day I'm gonna get this to someone I will meet in heaven. I don't know who they'll be, but I am called to make sure I don't store up my treasures on this earth, but I store up his treasures in heaven, and he was the treasure of heaven, and he left to come and find me to be a treasure so that I might join him in the mission to find other treasures that don't know him either. That's what it means to be a church. That's what it means to follow Jesus. And he makes it so clear when he says this: no one can serve two masters, two bosses. Can't do it. You can't serve two of them. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. And here, just so you are clear, Jesus says it. He knows what's hunting our hearts. He says, you cannot serve both God and money. There is nothing that will compete for the position of God in your heart more than money will. Money wants to sit on the throne of your heart. It wants to sit there and say, if you got enough of me, then everything will be okay. And Jesus is like, no, if you got enough of me, then everything will be okay. He's going after materialism. He's going after the dangers of it. It's that part of us that never has enough, that hates giving what we think is ours to someone else. And we spent so much money trying to get it, so much energy trying to get it. The treasure of heaven left it all behind. And he spent his time, energy, money to save us. And it's our turn. And that's why we called it Our City, Our Turn. Because it's our turn to think about someone else. And yeah, for some of you, the easiest way for some of you to do it, because you are generous, is you give. And I'm grateful for that. It's why we're the church we are. But it can't just stop with you being generous financially. You got to be generous with your courage to invite someone to come experience Jesus. That's the other generosity that's mandatory for a church to take the baton to the next generation. You have to volunteer. You have to get involved. You have to say, look, guess what? I got a question. What would happen if our church doubled next Sunday? Can you imagine the madness that would be? You know why? We don't have enough kids volunteers. We don't have enough people who sing in the worship team. We don't have enough musicians. We don't have enough people. We got teenagers running behind the scenes stuff. We're going to need more people. We're going to need more of y'all to give, to serve, to volunteer if we're going to do what the church once upon a time did to get us the church we got now. Because 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, they were doing the same thing and they did not have what we got. They was riding horses and walking miles. They was fishing with their hands. They was doing hard stuff to make sure you and I got to know this Jesus. Now, Scripture's calling us to do our turn. And it should be a little hard. And it should be inconvenient. But it's inconvenient only if you haven't prioritized your real priorities first. And once you do those first, I promise you, it will change your life. It will transform who you are. And so, how do you take this home if you're under 30? I want to give it to you clearly. Here you go. Here's what our world tells you to do when it comes to your money and your time and your energy. This is what they say. First things first, this is what you do. You spend it on you. One, spend first, okay? Then save a little, because you might need, to replace a tire. You might want to get married someday, so put a little money away for a ring or something, or maybe your parents can't help with the wedding as much, so you got to help, right? So save second, but you spend on what you like. Go on, spend. I got money, I got a job, let's go, I spend, right? And then save, okay, a little conservative, save a little bit, right? And then after that, you sit in church, you're like, oh, shoot, yeah, I got to give. All right, here you go, God. And you kind of like tip God, like at the end of the meal, right? And that's kind of how it goes. And this is how our world will teach you to do it. But I will promise you this, if you do it that way, you will always, always, always end up having a bad eye on life. You will not be able to do what's in your heart. And here's what I know about you. You actually are a generous person in your heart. And you do care, and you do want to help others. And you know why you know this? Because you've seen it. You've watched it. You know what it looks like. You have met and watched a generous person before. You know what it looks like to watch generosity. When you see someone being generous, it stands you up at attention. It makes you look at it and you're watching something powerful that you just go, wait. You're just doing it just cause. You're just giving it to someone because you're generous. It captivates you. We watch it. We send it. Oh, you got to watch this video. We want people to see generosity. We have a hard time stepping into it sometimes. And it isn't because you don't have it in your heart. It's because you don't have it in your hand because you spent it first on something you don't even care about. So Jesus is saying this, switch it. Store up treasures in heaven and do it first. What's that mean? It means instead of spending first, saving second, and then living on the rest, spend and save and then give what you got left over, switch it. Give to God and his purposes first. Be generous first. Be obedient first. Give first. Okay? Save second. Save second. And then live on the rest. Listen to me, if you're on the age of 30, I promise, I don't care if it's a $200 check, $180 check, $214 check, whatever you're working with right now. Maybe you're like doing great, you're 29 and like you got a like legitimate career and things are going. I promise you, if you will honor God, God will always honor his word to you. If you put him as the Lord of your heart and not money, and you say, I'm not gonna keep trying to serve money as if it's the thing that will take care of me. It is not the thing that will take care of you. He will. Yes, you got to work hard. You got to be smart. You got to learn how to invest. You got to have a financial advisor. You got to get wisdom. You got to learn to have a budget. You got to stick to your budget. Like you got to do all that stuff. But that's the stuff of how you do it. But it starts with a heart that says, I'm not going to keep trying to tell myself money's what's going to take care of us. It's not. It's the lordship of Jesus in my heart. And when he's first, everything falls into place. And can I tell you this? When God's in his rightful place, everything falls into place. And there is only one rightful place for Jesus. It's first. He don't do good in second, third, fourth, fifth when you're just sprinkling stuff on the after effects of whatever you did. Nope, start first and be obedient and go, I give to God, I'm generous first. I save second. What do you save? You save for your future. You save for things that matter and name what they are. Listen, if you're under 30, name it. I don't get a memo out on your phone and go through a list of 20 things. I don't care what they are. List everything you think you'd want to save money for and then put how much it is. And then one by one, start saving until you got enough money in the savings account to pay for that thing cash. So you don't pay on a credit card and then pay a bank to use their money. Pay you to use your money at 0% interest rate. If you'll do these things, this is the type of stuff that will set you apart from your friends that are just out there with mommy, daddy's money, acting like it's never gonna run out. That ain't it. And if you are faithful like this, you'll save second and then you live on the rest. That type of discipline develops a muscle called, and I've been talking I've been with my team talking about this muscle I want to build strong called the no muscle. It's the muscle that gets strong because it can say no. No, I'm not gonna eat that. I'm not gonna spend that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna stay home. I'm not gonna not invite this person. Why? Because I really don't want to, but I'm gonna tell that part, no, I'm not gonna, no. This time it's yes, I am gonna do this right. And you learn to say no to the right things so you can say yes to the things that you actually really value. And certainly if you're a person of faith, it is the value of our belief. So practically speaking, that's the order of God. Now, how can we as a church help you with that? Here's what I want to offer you. We have a thing called Financial Peace University, okay? And it's I think like 7-week course. I've taken it. My wife made me take it. She went through it first and did the first baby step without me knowing it. And I thank her for it because it changed our lives financially forever and allow us to do a lot of things in personal real estate. We own multiple homes and did a lot of stuff because of Financial Peace University. And I want you to know that this is a passion of our church is to help young people or anyone who's in debt. I want you to live in financial peace. I don't want you in financial chaos and pain and struggle, okay? Because then you can keep Jesus as the true center of your heart when you're not tripping on all the bad decisions that money can make us make sometimes, okay? So here's the deal. Financial Peace University costs $79.99. So there's two things that we don't want to be a barrier. If you can't afford it, I want you to do this. Okay, this is across for everybody, everyone. This is not just under 30, this is all y'all, okay? If you're listening online or you're in this place and you can't afford the $79.99 because, you know, money's tight, and money's tight because it's tight because of the world and the difficulties of life, and it's tight because you've been irresponsible, okay? And so you're like, dude, I admit it, it's where I'm at, fine. If you can own that, here's what we'll ask. Pay up front the $80, finish the class, and then we'll refund it to you. Why? Well, because if I just give it to you, you'll go to 3 classes. I still got to pay them to have the people in the room because we're a church of integrity. And then if you don't finish it, we just out the money and we didn't even help you. Nah, you got into debt spending and thinking like that. We're going to get you out, but you're going to have to do it responsibly, okay? We're going to help you. Now, number 2, we also believe in the next generation. And here's what I want to know. If you're under the age of 30, I want you to become the most generous person in your family. That's my desire, is I want to upset the whole house. I want to send a bunch of next-gen students home with so much generosity in their heart. Not foolishness, not giving all their money away. No, you need to do what's generous, save, and then live on it, okay? But I still want you to be generous, and here's what we're going to do. The same rules apply. If you will pay up front, graduate, we'll refund it for you. Now, here's what I'm asking. I'm asking for some of y'all on the way out to put in $80 to cover a couple of these next-gen students who may not have the money to pay up front, because we want to make sure as many of them do it. want to do it, they can do it. You guys can take it. Look, y'all take some hard classes, okay? You take classes I never took in school, okay? Like I got up to like algebra 2. But just because I was bad at math doesn't mean I didn't get good at handling this stuff. So I'd rather say I is wealthy than I am poor. And I'm wealthy in Jesus. Don't get me twisted. I mean, I did all right. We sold a couple homes, but my God. I didn't get nothing from nobody. Trust me. Back on course. Some of y'all help us pay for some of these young folks. If you are young, under the age of 30, and you don't legitimately have the $80 to take the class, pay it, and we'll refund you the money. And if you're under 30, and you're like, that $80 really could go a long way right now for me getting out of debt, then we want to underwrite that. But you just got to talk to us. Communicate with us openly and freely. If you could do it, don't be bashful if you need it. And if you don't need it, don't lie. Just, let's have an honest dialogue, church, pastor, y'all, and we'll get this thing done together, okay? We love you, we care about you, and this thing is hunting you, and we want you to live the purpose that Jesus has for your life. And if you do this in your 20s, I promise you, this will set you up for your 30s and your 40s and your 50s and your 60s in a way that will transform the way it feels for you to live your life. Money will not own you. Debt will not own you. You won't have arguments about debt and money. You'll remove that whole thing. Now, everyone over the age of 30, married and all the rest, I got a question. If we took every fight about money away from your marriage, what would that have felt like? Can you imagine that? No big arguments about money. No stress about money because you did it right. Right? If you could go rewrite all this stuff for everyone under 30, wouldn't you want it? Because that's what we want to do. We want to build the church of the next generation so they could avoid the arguments that we've all had to have because we didn't know and we didn't learn this stuff, but they can, and that's our job. We pass the baton. Maybe what we give to them is something nobody gave to us yet. Yay, team, that's what it means to be older, wiser, more mature Christian. You sacrifice more for those that are younger, and that's our church here, okay? Last thing is we got baptisms coming up. I want to make sure that those of you that are following Jesus take your next step. So you can sign up for all these things at our Next Steps wall. It's a blue wall out there. Please do that on the way out. Besides that, I'm going to pray for you right now, okay? God, that's what I want. I want to live around and be with a church that is storing up treasures in heaven. I pray right now that you would move the heart of us who have been building up treasures on earth, and we've kind of forgotten. We've lost our way a little bit because that's the way of our world. And we have to come to you to help us to change our life like this. Would you do it today? Would you do it in us? If those of us that we've just slacked on being generous, we've slacked on being obedient, and we're believers. We believe in tithing. We believe in our city, our turn, all the stuff. Just help us, God, to have the courage and the strength to discipline ourselves to do what you've called us to do and to get that in order. God, I also ask that you would help us to be generous with our boldness, to invite. God, I pray this next week when I get to church on Sunday that we would see people we have never met because our church would go out and face their fears and face the hardship of the invite or the whoever, and we would just see people that you would use us to bring the treasures of heaven. You came to seek and save the lost. Help us to go seek and save them as well because we once upon a time were them and somebody came for us. I pray that you would use our church to do this in Jesus' mighty name. And if you believe it, would you say amen? Amen. All right, church, love you guys so much. Have a great day with your families. Let's go change the world together. Go Niners.